Welcome to A Procurement Podcast, the Reform Rundown, with your hosts Chris Robinson and Fleur Summers.
Over the course of this series, Fleur and I will be discussing some of the main themes and concepts surrounding the Procurement Act 2023 and what it will mean to the public sector ahead of launch. Fleur and I have a combined 40 years public sector procurement experience and will be using some of that experience to share our knowledge and insights around the Act itself.
So let's get into today's topic.
Hello everyone and welcome to A Procurement Podcast, a Reform Rundown. This is the first in our series you are listening to your hosts Chris Robinson and Fleur Summers.
We are looking to set up these bite-sized podcasts where we will talk about the different themes and topics that we are seeing with the new Procurement Act 2023.
Today we're going to be talking about what 2024 means for procurement and the change that we are going to see, as well as the areas that we are both looking forward to seeing. 2024 is going to be a year of change within public sector procurement, and we are looking to share our views across a number of different themes, as well as what they mean to you.
So let's have a chat about where we are at the moment in terms of the procurement reform. As we all know, we have the Procurement Act 2023 following it receiving royal assent on the 26th of October 2023. And we are now currently awaiting for the supporting regulations and secondary legislation to be published. So Chris, what do you think of the process that the Procurement Bill, or the Procurement Act as we now know, has gone through to get where we are now?
Both lengthy and necessary, I would suggest. When you think back to when was the beginning of 2021, we had the first news breaking around, obviously, the purpose of the reform itself and the initial green paper and subsequently further down the line, the white paper. What I will say is that throughout that process and to where we've taken ourselves to the release of the Act itself in October of last year, 2023, and the Cabinet Office have done an excellent job in bringing the public procuring bodies along the journey of the development of the Act itself. Of course, we know the regulations are to follow, but you think about the various consultation exercises, absolutely, and the various webinars that were hosted and around that, and the opportunity for the sector to comment and really shape the Act itself. I think whilst it's been a lengthy process, it's been a necessary one, and hopefully, and the sector has felt empowered and also for sure involved in the development of the Act and where we are today.
Yeah, and I think it was a Cabinet Office webinar that I joined a few months ago where they shared some key facts about the process that it's taken, and it was really clear to see it was such a significant topic for debate, and just by the amount of time that was given to it, the speeches, the amendments, that it all went through just to get to where we are today.
Yeah, and on the point of time then, and obviously where we are today and the regulations that are to follow, of course, do you think that there's going to be sufficient time in terms of the public sector authorities and organisations to be in a position to be ready and be able to embrace and fully comply with the Act and the regulations come its estimated implementation time of October this year, 2024?
I think it's going to be a lot of work. It's going to be a lot of work for the public sector authorities. Like you say, we've got the indication of going live in October 2024 with a 6-month lead-in time given April as to where we are now. And I think it's a lot of work for them to do just in terms of understanding the Act, what the key things are, but then transposing them into their procurement policy and procedures and, understanding what changes they need to make to those to be compliant, or what flexibilities they want to be taken as an authority, as well as like their governance approaches and what needs to be looked at there. So I think for public sector authorities, there is a lot that they can be doing and things that they should be starting to look at now to be able to get ahead and get ready for when we go live.
I would certainly agree with that. And for everything that you've just mentioned there, I think I'd try and summarise into one word, and I think that's resources.
Yeah, exactly.
And it's going to definitely require a significant amount of resource within these public sector organisations to be able to, again, embrace the Act itself. And as I mentioned earlier, to continue to comply throughout it, like once it does be implemented for sure.
So let's have a quick chat about why we think the Procurement Act is important to us and what benefits it will bring. So Chris, do you want to start off?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I think about, of course, the headline and the strapline that came out with the green paper, the subsequent white paper, etc. as well. In that the intention was to slash over 350 regulations.
It's crazy, isn't it, when you think of it? And even going from like 4 sets of regulations to 1 set.
Definitely. I mean, I think it was for sure a bold proposal, definitely. And say we talked earlier about that the initial indication of that within the green paper back early 2021, and definitely sounded fanciful at the time. And I can imagine public procuring organisations across the UK were probably looking at that and probably bracing themselves for the worst, and they're thinking, well, actually, we have these public contract regulations that they know and, dare I say, love, but then all of a sudden, there's this bold statement that comes out that everything that you are familiar with
and have
been, absolutely, don't stress it, it'll all be fine. So, and you think about, obviously, all the extensive consultations that have took place that we talked about and touched on right now, the various legal counsel offerings that have been proposed and been available at the time of the consultation as well. I think, whilst it's going to be a huge step change for the public sector, will result in regulations acting as a handrail, which will not only provide clarity, but also future-proof and encourage innovation and embrace emerging technologies, which I think, in a nutshell, is what the Act is set out to do.
Definitely.
So, why is, in fact, the Procurement Act important, and what benefits do you personally hope it will bring the sector?
So I think for me, the reform of the procurement regulations, and as we have the new Act being implemented, is going to be a massive change for public sector organisations, and one that we haven't seen for a while. Whilst we've had some previous updates to regulations such as, Public Contracts Regulations 2015 and those changes, they weren't necessarily as significant as this change. And just the amount of time, like we've just spoken about, that it took for the Act to go through its approval process via the House of Commons, House of Lords, onto Royal Assent, just shows its importance. And for me, having come from a public sector, local authority, procurement background, I'm hoping that it will bring more flexibility in terms of being able to design a process that can be tailored more to the market and the specific requirements that we have, instead of trying to make everything fit into the standard generic processes, which we've all had to try and do. It will be a really interesting time to see the different approaches that are taken around this as public sector authorities start to explore it and the area more. Will we see the same as what we've always seen, or will we start to see the embracing of flexibility and let's do something different?
Yeah, it's a real opportunity for change, isn't it, in terms of the Act and what it's proposing to bring. And I think public procuring bodies will naturally be looking at large consortium providers, the likes of Crown Commercial Services and some of the other. Yeah, definitely. But I'm hopeful that the sector will really embrace the changes that are brought about, and we're going to cover in these future podcasts in much more detail. So certainly a lot to cover and consider. So I think that ultimately probably brings us to a wrap in terms of our introduction and to this first podcast itself. So thank you for listening to this very short introduction. And we'd certainly love to hear from you, the listener, in terms of any particular topics and themes that you would like us to cover over the next few episodes. Fleur and I have certainly got a packed agenda of things that we want to cover, but by the same token, I think it'd be interesting to hear the different views and opinions from you, the listeners, as well. And happy to accept the challenge to cover some of those areas that might be coming up for sure.
And obviously, if there are any areas that you'd like to raise or just have a chat about, please feel free to get in touch with myself or Chris. And make sure to look out for the next release of our Procurement Podcast.